Hi everyone, Soul017 here. Let me first as usual. I own the picture, made the thumbnail, not paid video. So, if anyone's been wondering, where have I been? How can I state this? Because this is a remake of a game that got me into a series that has been on my channel of one of my Deku ideas. Persona 3. I played the original Persona 3, but it was on the PS3 because the PS3 can download PS2 games, and I was able to play it. So, that was my first introduction to the Persona series. And that's how I fell in love with it. I'm gonna try, and I've been wanting to get like Golden or whatever, but I hear there's a new remake of Persona 4 coming out. So yeah. I do basically, I have been playing that, and I have been sleeping, and then every time I wake up, it's like always between 6 or 7. So, I haven't been really, how should I say, really able to make it because of this schedule, and I've been trying to basically do it every weekend. It's just, I have too many ideas popping up in like some what ifs. So, and also I'm basically trying to figure out when is a good time to make some stuff, which I've been trying to watch basically my solo leveling Deku what ifs, but the problem is when I'm doing that, I'm at work, and I'm trying to go to my playlist, and it just doesn't want, my playlist won't play, and but I know where I'm at in that one. I'm after Nafumi, whole tire stuff. I got the shield, Deku got the shield, yeah, and the whole tire thing for that, then, even got Philo. And that's been on my mind. That's been on my mind, for a while now. And I keep on thinking of that, and I keep on thinking of some other things. Because I want to make that, one good. Which I may just make that tomorrow night, honestly. Just to get it started. So I may be focusing on some things, like including basically some, like my Isekai into Overlord, my Isekai into Damanchi, can go back into doing that. Gaster stands or whatever. Basically, and Beyblade, Naruto. I'm gonna try to be focusing on those for a while. But anyways, enough of me talking about that. Let's get into this, because I finally figure out how it's gonna go, and hopefully it's gonna go good in this part. Views don't really go up or down sometimes. Most of my views go down. People watching it, but it takes time. That's all that matters, time. And I appreciate when people watch my videos on when the series keeps on going. I'm actually quite surprised people will still watch it. No matter how many views it is. So thank you to everyone who basically been keep watching these, the series of this. So, last time we left off is, Percy was given the quest. Everyone knew that who I am, my adopted parents are, and I'm adopted from a whole new world, and I kind of basically glanced over the whole entire way to Manhattan. Manhattan? I'm probably saying that wrong. Do not know why I can say it normally when I'm not recording. But, moving on. So we kind of basically skipped over that. So, we're gonna basically go on to that way to basically Manhattan. Again, sorry to anyone who basically knows to say it and live there, and I apologize when I'm pronouncing it wrong. I most likely am for some reason, and I apologize for that. So, we're kind of gonna go over that. We're gonna start that off. So yeah. So, as we're basically in the van with Argus, as basically, we're just listening to the radio as I'm just basically, look at basically my bag that I have, that I basically had with me at camp, and, basically open up a zipper, pull out basically my phone, in which basically Annabeth and Grover kind of stiffen up as Percy goes like, "Wait, we're not supposed to bring a phone?" I'm like, "Oh, doesn't really matter for me." Which basically Argus basically does have one eye looking at me, and Percy asks why. He was like, "Adopted kid of chaos." Our basically scent is so strong, no matter how basically I would say how strong it is. Even when we try to basically blend in with society with just regular people, if we use phones, it won't really matter. So we're able to use phones no matter what. Not with me, basically with my scent being sealed off, as I basically hold up my arm, basically jingled basically the bracelet on my wrist, and like due to my father, basically one of my fathers is a Hephaestus brother. Well, I mean Hephaestus, as you understand, brother. Wait, do you mind if I call you brother, stepbro? I guess I don't know, bro. Look at him with a questionable look as he goes, yeah. He goes, all right then, bro. So, I mean, I shouldn't really have it, but I have a feeling it doesn't really matter since this also probably I can make it where it doesn't really affect my scent at all either. In which, basically, Annabeth goes like, so, you're, yes, I'm also your brother. Well, adopted into the family. Which she just nods slowly, goes like, and you have so many questions, don't you, Annabeth? She goes, yes, a lot. Which basically Grover was like, yeah, how was your world like? It was the same. Basically, my parents said that. I mean, I just looked at them with a questionable eyebrow, like, they mentioned that at camp, which Annabeth goes like, I want to know how much the same. I'm like, besides all the gods being real and such, it's just in general the same. Same technology, but I was a couple years into the future. For you guys, at least. Which Percy goes like, and you somehow survived a whole entire destruction of... Right? I'm guessing? Since they said you were floating in the void? Like, pretty much. Yeah. Survived it somehow. That's my BS luck. Well, it's called the ultimate BS. Which Grover's like, yeah. I mean, how do you survive a ending thread of your whole entire dimension? I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, man. I just wave it off for him. I'm like, don't worry about it, Grover. To be fair, I'm actually quite questioning it myself. I don't really know how I did either. I just guess for that. But I'll find out eventually. But the only thing I can think of is a curse. That's the only theory I have. Besides, though, be glad you weren't in my position. Which, basically, Annabeth basically is, look at me questioning Percy without tact, just ask her, like, what do you mean by that? I'm like, well, first off, I want to just say a few things as, basically, I, put my phone away as, then sealed it up, the zipper. As I look at them, like, first off, I want to just tell you guys this. The Hunters of Artemis are going to be after me. Which, basically, that makes Annabeth blink as Grover kind of, Grover's eyes widen. But then, with amazement, then he remembers, he realizes what I said, and then he has fear, has fear, basically. As then Percy goes like, Hunters of Artemis? One of my mom's, you could say, adopted children. So, technically my sisters. In which Percy's like, wait, so your own sister's gonna be after you to kill me. Most likely. Which, and that's just insane as, Argus is kind of basically lost focus and almost hit a car, which, as I look at him like, don't worry about me, Argus. I'll be alright. Most likely. Hopefully. As then, basically, just Percy, just without basically I would say, but he's not trying to be rude, but he just says, "How can you laugh that off? Do you not have any fear?" Which I'm like, I mean, as you once said, I know the emotion, but I just don't care for it. I can feel it. But for this, no, I don't. That's the second thing, though, about me. I was gonna say, I really don't have any emotions besides one. There's a theory I have that's most likely true, which basically this kind of catches Argus' attention, which basically Annabeth goes like what? I'm like, I'm trusting you this because one, you two are my family, and basically for Grover here, since Percy trusts him the most, and I can tell he's a good person right away. Not the best judge of character myself, but I'm putting my faith in Percy. Which, basically, Percy's not slowly, and Grover is actually kind of amazed I'm actually doing this. You see, I don't know how long I was in the void, as I tell them. As if it goes, wait, what? It was, I woke up and I floated around for who knows how many hours. It could have been days, years, months. So I don't really know how long I was in the void. And so I could have been in the void for eons, millions of years, thousands. And my emotions, since I wasn't dying, my emotions were the one that was being taken. And since I became, well, a child of gods and child of gods and goddesses, and then basically a primordial's child, that mixing basically when I was in the void, my emotions been taken away. They that could have basically made them basically go in separate directions, in which Percy doesn't get, nor does Grover. But Annabeth thinks about it, and then she basically blinks and she goes, "Wait, you mean your emotions went to, well, as you are probably right, Annabeth, but I want to hear you say it," which she goes, "into different directions of the void and may have gone into other dimensions?" Right? She basically would have said it with confidence, but it's so far-fetched it could not have been possible. She's thinking, and then I say, "You are 100% correct." Well, the whole entire part of going in different directions, but into other dimensions. Yes. So, technically speaking, at this point in time, you can say this. I only have one basic emotion in me that never leaves me. Even though I have basically held it in for so long, it's my main core of my being probably by now. Which Percy has. Which was rage. I just say straight up, just rage and wrath. Well, rage goes into wrath. So, hand in hand. In which Percy just blinks. And then Beth goes, and so why basically telling us and the meaning of this? It goes like, well, because this is my main core, my main self, I have no other emotion, so anything you see me doing like this as I just smile, it's all fake. Even basically the tone I'm doing. So in actuality, I'm emotionless besides anger. And the reason why is I can actually just do everything like this is because of one reason. I fake my emotions so much without basically seeming like I'm bored. It kind of becomes a mask of second hand. So easily be able to be done. I can even change change it on the fly if I need to. But I can still feel my emotions. It's just, they don't last long. They basically do disappear after a while, besides, well, rage. That one I just feel right at the moment. But my emotions split off into different dimensions. It should not make no sense. How can one emotion become, well, into another one? That's though just a theory part of it. In actuality, I don't even know if they actually go into other dimensions or just become one, and as soon as that version of them dies, they go into another dimension. Because the time frame of the other, worlds, from the omniverse and multiverse, it's pretty much, who knows? Say 1 second here, it could be 1,000 years in another world. So, in a sense, my emotions could have lived thousands of lives, and I wouldn't know until basically until I get them all back. In which the Annabeth just says, but you don't know how. I'm like, exactly. It's technically just a theory, though. But I have been getting some weird things, like experiences, and basically instincts that I should not have. Heck, I even have basically knowledge on how to create something. It's kind of weird. Like, basically, Grover goes like what? He goes, the mechanics of the gates of Babylon. In which just Percy goes like, the gates of what? It goes, the gates of Babylon, King Gilgamesh. Technically known in one of the animes I know called the Fate series. He's called the King of Heroes. And his basically gates are, like this. As basically though I have my pocket dimension open up. It goes, but it's basically having like energy coming off of it now, basically of, probably like, let's say black energy coming off it with basically a little bit of like white star, star embers are coming out of it. Yeah, star embers are coming out, which I'm like, that's new. They kind of look golden, and there's some blue in the mix. Interesting. Which just Annabeth goes like, that looks similar to. I'm like, just nothing. I just shrugged at it. I have a feeling I basically did something that I didn't even realize it. Well, I'll find out eventually. Which basically Percy's like, so you have your own portable inventory, huh? I'm like, yes. So, mind giving me your bags? Which basically Percy's like, goes, it'd be easier for us to carry stuff around so we don't have to worry if we basically lose it. Besides, it'd be kind of way more easy to run around if we need to. Which Percy's looking at Annabeth and Grover, and they would nod. Percy, as he gives basically his bag to me, and then Annabeth, then Grover. I'm like, don't worry, I could probably call the portal any time I need. So, as I just throw their stuff in it, in which then I even basically look at my bag, and basically, somehow, in some way, I look at basically Percy's, Annabeth's, and Grover's bags and items. I'm like, now, how am I going to be able to tell as all of a sudden, basically, through basically my pocket dimension, blue-like energy goes around them as basically the portal I start seeing actually starts to turn, will have a little bit of gold and now blue energy coming out of it, which I'm like, I'm actually in complete shock. And now basically I see kind of like basically the bookshelves are being formed as two books start, come basically flying out of the bookshelves and towards basically the portal exit. As when they basically do come out, they basically just land my lap. I'm like, And then when I look back at basically Percy's, Grover's, and Annabeth's bags and items, they have basically tags on them with the color coding for it. I'm like, well, that's handy. And I just wrote my bag in there, and then basically it just, gets its own name tag. And I'm like, neat. That's very much useful. And that's basically the portal closes as Annabeth goes like, look at the books and look at me. I'm like, I have no idea how that happened. Don't even ask. But as I basically look at the book, I'm like, let's see what Mom's basically gift really works. As basically, I would basically take out, the glasses holder, glasses case, and, open it up. That was in my pocket. In which Annabeth goes like, wait, is that? Yep, a gift from our parents. Well, my parents. Actually, I got multiple gifts. Like, this is one from Hephaestus and Hera, the bracelet I was telling you about. The glasses from basically Athena, along with basically a pen that allows me to write in any language that I need to, and it can also turn into a spear. The glasses help me be able to read faster. Since I also have a healing factor from basically being a child of chaos, it'll help me basically be able to do certain things, like this is a good example. Oh yeah, I got a sword basically from Hades and Persephone. And, what else? Oh yeah, got a bow, well, got basically, as you can see, my bandana that technically will turn into a mask for me. Along with basically, you see basically my, well, I have a chain that basically is attached to my pants. Is really a holster for basically arrows, and there's even a bow, like, let's just say, charm there. Yeah, no, that's actually will turn into a bow and arrow. That's from the Lolly Hunter, which Grover's just like, did you just call Lady Artemis a Lolly Hunter? I'm like, yes. And I say it with a smile. Which Grover's about to say something like, to be fair, she turns into a kid, and she's how many years old? Like 12 to 13? And Grover really wants to basically say something, but he can't. Because one, he has a feeling I'll keep arguing with him, and two, he doesn't know how much basically I can make a point. It's just his gut feeling to tell him not to argue. Which then Percy goes, anything from our dad? Which I just look at Percy, I just sigh, I'm like, okay, first off, basically I had the glasses on me, I kind of put them a little bit upwards on my head, and look at Percy straight in the eyes. Our dad, basically, God the Sea. I just want to say this to basically even you, basically, Annabeth. Our parents couldn't raise us. Well, they couldn't raise you guys. They couldn't be there for you. They couldn't interfere with anything of your basically mortal lives. But that's basically a different story with me. They can basically give me gifts like they would with you guys, and basically it could be like they all can meet me, but there are limitations. But, I mean, that's what I believe. Which Annabeth goes like, what do you mean? He goes like, well, to be fair, I think there are limitations. I didn't want to let you guys basically know about this at all. But honestly, knowing you, Annabeth, if I start telling you more, which I kind of just got in the moment and try to basically bond with you two, I sort of just spilled too much, and I'm an idiot for it. Is I just basically sigh, and basically, even Annabeth and Percy can tell I'm literally basically cursing myself out in my own head. Which basically Percy goes, even Percy figures this out, and says, so they can help you and talk to you and see you anytime they want, since you're not I'm a false demigod, Percy. I'm not a actual demigod. I'm just a mortal being who has basically survived a destruction of basically my own dimension. I was gonna be floated into basically the void. And I lost everything. Basically, as Percy does see I'm actually looking upset when I said that. Which Annabeth and Grover even can tell you, and Argus can. I'm like, I'm not gonna try to ask for pity or saying, sorry, sorry or anything. Look, I'm just saying I lost everything, and I'm not gonna say I don't want you to or all demigods to meet their parents. I'm just saying they probably are doing this just so I don't feel like I have no one. Honestly, I will be thankful for that. Heck, even Artemis, if she actually praises me, I'll be just great. But the fact is, Percy, I'm in a different dimension. I have no one that I basically truly know in this world. I don't even know if there's a version of me here. My family's here. My friends that I had, or anyone I knew. My family. So I honestly just think they're just trying to do this so I have at least something. They'll try to be there for me just so I don't, I guess, break down. I'm stuck in a 12-year-old body. Like, I'm basically, actually, my mindset basically should be going back to, like, oh, I'm a 12-year-old, but since I became a child of, Athena, I still based on my, basically, personality of, well, of my, basically, mid-20s. Which Percy and Annabeth, Blinks, and even Grover basically is like, huh. And I just, kind of just sigh again. I'm just, so look, just saying, they probably want to basically help you guys. They probably want to raise you. Ancient law has basically gone the way, and they couldn't do so. So, I don't want you to hate your parents because of it. I don't want you basically say with any bitter that basically I hate my parents. Maybe I could basically talk to them and have them basically talk to you, talk to you guys. Maybe even some basically other members of the cabins that, I don't know. I just don't know. I'll try to figure out something though. Which basically now I actually just look very tired. And I'm just like, well, I can basically just see Annabeth just look at me and just pat me on the shoulder, and she goes, we didn't mean to sound like we were going to accuse you, and I'm like, it's fine. I actually wouldn't actually suspect anyone would, well, hate me. Say I'm just nothing more than a freak. I shouldn't even be here. I think every camper already realizes this, and I'm eventually going to be an outcast, so it's alright if you two actually basically want to. I mean, kind of already basically thought you guys would actually figure that out and start doing that, actually. I basically am a negative person, guys. Can't be helped. It's a habit. just talk amongst you guys and I'll just be reading. As basically, I opened the book and put the glasses on. Just give me a minute. I have a bug in my room and that's gonna be bugging me if I don't get rid of it. Sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Anyways, so, as I start reading, and I basically am able to read through everything really quickly, though. What I find out, this is basically on how the gates of Babylon I can actually mix with. Basically, my gates that I get from chaos. Well, portals. And I'm actually kind of amazed. Basically, after a couple of minutes reading the first book, I would say about 30 minutes of actually reading, I basically put the glasses up on my forehead. I basically just start blinking, and I'm like, huh. So that's the theory behind the gates of Babylon, I'm thinking in my head. So I basically can mix my chaotic energy with, that makes my basically portals, well, I would say, that I get from chaos, which is my inventory. And then I basically mix that with my, well, basically projection ability that basically mixes with that, turns basically the gates golden while giving it a black wisp and basically blue and gold appearance. And truth now, basically, so that's what was happening to basically the infinite storage. It was basically changing I doing this subconsciously? As I'm basically, I look at the second book, basically because this was the theory behind it. Now basically this is the book on how basically it can be done. And it's like, basically looking at it. As I basically put back the glasses on and basically, start reading, another 30 minutes pass. While that was all happening, Annabeth and Percy and Grover were talking. You see, because of that, they would start talking about basically what I just said and everything, kind of starting off basically the journey on a little bit of a depression moment for me, kind of showing basically that, a little bit too much than I wanted to. I kind of may have been overly excited, basically, Annabeth kind of realized and basically been able to talk to two of my basically siblings, and so to speak. As Grover's like, so, you think he's, gonna be alright? Which Percy's like, sorry, G-Man, I don't really know. Just Annabeth, just like, I never really actually thought of this was an outcome. Which, basically, Percy's like, oh, you didn't? I thought you would have. In a sarcastic tone. In which she just says, to be fair, I have many questions for him about basically what he can do, basically how his world is like, how was his life beforehand, and then basically kind of just laid it out on this. I mean, he's only been here for as long as you have, Percy. I mean, at camp. The day, that night when you defeated the Minotaur, he came in that morning. Which Percy's like, so I've been there only a week at camp, while he's been, he was basically there also, but only a day before me, so not even a week. But then been a month of training, which basically he says with basically a little bit of confusion a bit. In which Annabeth says, yeah, he's only been basically in this world for a month, and I guess he hasn't, actually shouldn't get over the fact that he's technically lost everything. I mean, the implications, I don't think everyone would realize, and him basically saying his own negative feelings about how everyone's going to treat him, it's... I honestly didn't think that. Then Grover would say, but yeah, I heard about how someone from, basically, before Grover could say Ares' cabin, just started to speak up and everything. I guess that's what he basically said he already knew. So after that sigh, basically everything was in silence, and then basically Percy would say he was saying canon, and of him getting into a little bit of not that heated much of a fight now. And Percy just goes like, so I guess, we can work together if we wanted to. And Annabeth just nods. And so basically they, saw me finish up the other book, and now I've just been thinking for this whole entire time. As I have basically a small little portal opening up right in front of me, as then basically they see it's now basically black mist coming off of it, gold and blue energy coming out. As I basically am peering inside of it, as I basically do see now it's basically everything is different. Basically then I smirk and basically thinking to myself now, it was, so I control the inside of what I want, but since it's infinite storage, a vast void in a sense, I can put in basically, energy in a sense and materialize anything I want in it. So I can even make this basically space a treasury if I wanted to. It's to have a smirk, not a smirk now, just a grin. I'm like, that's only basically the first two books. I have a feeling there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. So, as I put the two books back in, I then see those books flying back to the shelves. Basically, I see the bag that says Athena's basically gift. I basically reach in for it and pull it out. And then I open up basically the book. Well, not open up the book, I mean open up the bag that has books. Basically, I'm like, pull out basically a book on Greek mythology. I'm like, good read material. Especially on, this one's about the monsters of this world. And so I throw that bag back in there, and basically, as I put the glasses basically back into the case and throw in, well, not throw in the case, just put the case in it, and then it closes as I open up the book and start reading. As Annabeth just blinks and she's just like, she says out loud, actually, that's, he has a library? Which Percy's like, wow, you actually sounded a little bit upset and jealous. Just, I am. Anyways, Grover just sighs, be like, only you, Annabeth. She just then says a glare at Grover, and then I say this, because I heard them, and like, to be fair, I have basically infinite storage, and so, imagine the knowledge I have, basically, is put into books, somehow. And basically, it goes into, basically, as we can now know, my infinite storage. It was just, I just read up on the theory behind something and how to do something. So, technically I'm calling my infinite storage a treasury. I was actually thinking of calling that from a while back. Since, because it basically would made sense to me at least. But, technically speaking, Annabeth, I do have multiple books in there, and a bag from Mom, on basically some things, which you are not allowed to read. Besides anything that's Greek. She was like, huh? What do you mean by anything that's Greek? I'm like, you don't need to know. Just, because she may have some books that are not about Greek. Some stuff that I would like, not you. In which she just kind of looks at me, blinking, not understanding. So, I'm like, oh yeah, did you guys fight over basically, or argue over about why you guys can't work together? And Percy said about no monsters yet? Which Percy goes like, yeah, why? He goes like, yeah, he goes, why? And I'm looking at him and I just say this. No offense, Percy, since you're all new to this, I had a feeling you were going to do that. Which Percy just like, blinks and then it sinks in and he goes like, hey! Everyone then just starts to have a chuckle at that, including Percy. So, the rest of the ride was, well, basically quiet, with just a little bit of chatter and joking around, and Argus was smiling. Now, though, we get to Manhattan, and basically we get to the bus station. So, what happens at the bus station is same thing like canon. Percy sees the missing poster, and then he basically looks in the direction where his house was, and Grover does say basically about his mother and such. But the fact is, basically, Percy goes like, hey, where's Jack? As I left to go to the restroom, and Alan was in there for like a few minutes, because I decided, like, to test something out. Since basically I have chaotic energy, due to basically my parent, one of them at least, we all know who it is, I basically decided to at least get into contact with her. Which, I'm like, how do I even do this? I just whisper, I'm like, Mother Chaos? Are you there? In which I hear in my mind, basically goes, you're actually calling me! I'm like, at least I think, I'm like, you can hear me now? She goes, yes. What is it that you need? I'm like, well, I just had a question. She goes, oh? Is it about your powers? I'm like, yeah. am I allowed to shapeshift? She just blink. I basically can just see her, mentally see her blinking, and then and then I hear her laughter. Well, not laughter, a giggle. And she goes, "Of course you can." We just wanted to confirm it, and we're like, "Yeah, am I actually able to do it though now?" She basically thinks about it for a few minutes. She goes, "Well, not physical change, but if you're talking about making your hands turn to like claws, or basically your arm basically able to split off and basically turn to two more appendages, that you can't do, but you can make the claws or change your hair color, eye color." Is that what you're asking? I'm like, yeah. Then she goes, "Of course you can. It takes practice. What are you going to do?" I'm like, "Well, something to represent basically a few of my parents." She basically goes, "What are you going to do?" I'm like, "Change my hair to black, put some red highlights in, maybe, or change basically like both my eye colors. Change one eye to basically a gray, the other one to Percy's eye color, but have like both of them have like a red, basically, you can say tint to it a bit. Not much, just saying there's like some red there." She goes, "Oh? Huh. I thought you were gonna do something basically else." "You can do that." I'm like, "Thanks. Just no problem. Just keep those, well, three basically in check." I'm like, "I promise." So, after basically I say bye and she says bye, I, well, do my little transformation. I basically go to the mirror, see my reflection, focus on my hair color as I see it change to black, and basically I have my hair get a little bit longer. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Then my eye color changes a bit, and I do what I said. I gain one eye the same color as Percy's, and the other eye the same color as Annabeth. Then I put a little bit of a green, not green. I put a little bit of a red to it. Well, yeah, there's a little bit of a red color mixed into it, both my eyes, as I basically do have a little bit of a tan eyes that I just go like, should I just, yeah, I'll leave it like this. So I basically do walk out of the bathroom. I come back, and then I hear basically Percy ask, "Where was I?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm right here." As basically Percy and Grover look over as they see me, including Annabeth, and then they just blink. I'm like, "What? Got something on my face?" Which Annabeth is, looking at me, with, I would say, with suspicion, and then she notices the eyes. She goes, "Wait, uh, uh, Jack?" I'm like, "The one and only." Whereas Percy's like, how was like transformation ability? Which they just blink and I'm like, chaos. Which they just nod slowly. I'm like the look. I'm thinking about using this only when I'm outside of camp. Have two looks. In which Basic Grower's like, okay, that's just a cheat code. I'm like, meh. I can only change them basically only something slightly, nothing much. So, let's get on to the bus. Yeah, basically, I already got the tickets, which basically Annabeth does nod. I'm like, cool. So we do wait for basically the bus, as we start using basically an apple that I basically took out of basically a small little portal that Grover would have had on him in his bag, and we start using it as a hacky sack, which surprisingly we all did well until Grover basically ate the apple core and all, the apple core and all basically. Which he says sorry, and we just laugh. Now and then, though, I basically, when we get into the back of the bus, I just sigh. I'm like, oh, great. Which is like, huh? Which I'm just sighing. I'm like, well, I guess I'm thinking I'm got this little tint, my twinge, or how should I say, pinch in the back of my head. I think I'm monsters around. Not too sure. Grover, can you? Which basically takes a sniff of the air as then his eyes widen. And so, what we see is the kindly ones, as they would call it. Me. Just called them the angry ones, or the murder ones. Which Percy's like, oh, great, it's Mrs. Dodds. I'm like, who? He was a teacher. I'm like, oh. Oh, that sucks. I thought she was never going to come back. You said that, Annabeth. She was, you'll be lucky, I said. Annabeth was tell Percy. And everything will somewhat go to canon. Now then, though. This is where I would think something's changed. The same outcome will happen. In a sense, it's just things will go different. As I'm basically, seeing basically them making an X, basically with their legs, saying no one's gonna get past this point or move. As then I basically put off my bandana off my arm, pull it off, and then wrap it around my face. As then it turns into a mask, in which Percy's like, "What are you gonna do?" I'm like, "Improvise." As as then somehow in some way, basically would basically just close my eyes and, well, as soon as basically we kind of get into an area where basically everything goes dark, I feel like there's some sort of basically energy or something's on me. So when my eyes about to look, I see basically shadows just having a hood that basically is over my head, which I'm just blinking. I'm like, huh? And, well, I'm like, okay. So manifestation with basically shadows because of Hades, but with chaotic energy mixed into it, I'm able to make actual shadows that will actually become physical for me. As if basically I just have question marks appearing over my head, which I know, but no one else can see it. As in basically I hear Annabeth would say they are here for Percy and such. As me grabbing one of my basically throwing daggers. As I want to basically take this creature out quickly, but I don't want no one to see it. So, I would basically hear Percy and Annabeth argue. I'm like, well, let me try something, alright? So I put the mask on for a reason. In which basically Annabeth look over at me and she will see my mask is on and she'll look over, she goes, do you have a plan? I'm like, use the darkness to my advantage? Gotta try. Which basically Grover saying, are you insane? He whispered at him like, look, I'm not saying I'm can't be the best at it. I don't even know if I can actually do it. The only thing though I can actually say is, it's better off than basically just letting them come over and basically try to kill one of us. Or all of us. Besides, how bad could it be? Don't answer that. I know I just jinxed myself. Can't believe I just did that rookie mistake. As Annabeth just blinking as basically she'll give Percy the hat still and he'll do his thing. As Mrs. Dodds and her two sisters, well, the Furies basically do their thing. Basically, as me, I basically got up and basically moved. And since technically my scent is lowered to basically where it could be one of the lesser gods, or not that, well, a strong god, but not that strong, like one of the big three, not even council, they won't basically, get my scent. As what happens is, though, unknowingly, we are basically having everyone basically watching from Mount Olympus. Because, not Odin, because Zeus wanted to basically see the progression and keep an eye on us. So they've been watching ever since first the first moments when we left camp. And let's just say my explanation and basically my sort of kind of little rant and somewhat little, you know, kind of basically showing how I truly feel is, was kind of, how should I say, known to them now, as Zeus did look at Hera and basically Poseidon, Athena, Hephaestus, and Artemis, and they can see they're a little bit upset, but understandable, as Zeus wants to basically say something to them, but in truth, this has never happened, as basically I've said in my previous video, so technically they basically could technically, I say, may have came to realize already, or has just recently came to realize they can technically help me, talk to me, raise me, visit me anytime they want. But the fact is, though, he did not suspect that I would actually said all that on the way to basically the bus station. He has not said nothing, but basically I thought is basically of the curse I have. He basically sighs mentally, was like, and so he is basically having survival guilt. I have to go visit Chiron. I need him to keep an eye on this boy, and I'll allow his parents to visit him. I will not say nothing. After all, two of my daughters can probably help him, well, my wife. He is technically my since my wife adopted him, he's technically my kid. But I would not ever say that or admit it. In which, basically, the reason why I had Zeus basically say that is because he was thinking a while. As Hades is basically, looking at the scene too, as he basically wants to see what I would do. So, as I basically am, about to get into the next seat, which I have nothing on me, they see as, the basically Furies, just basically don't even care. No, when I was with them, basically, since I'm not basically that much of a threat, even though I was with them, they basically would basically question me later. So what happens is very simple. Right when basically the darkness point comes in a split second. In a split second, all of the Furies feel basically metal hitting them. As then they just poof right when basically the lights came out. As I was already in a seat and everyone's just very confused. And then one person starts screaming because they see a weapon on the ground. As everyone now is also screaming, as I'm already ducked into basically my own little area of the seat. As because of this, they're basically pulling for the bus to stop. As the bus driver says, I can't get off. I have to get off on the next exit. Where Percy is actually just blinking. Me, though, meanwhile, I'm thinking, okay, lightning speed reflexes. Quit basically reaction time. Yeah, my training has kind of helped already. Along with, guess that my body's getting used to this since it was in a combat situation. Me trying to figure this out. How was I able to do that so quickly, even get into a seat? Did I just which I'm basically trying to think of multiple possibilities on how I was able to even do this. While that's happening, we do get it off the exit and basically get off the bus. Me, basically as soon as basically that happens, I get off the bus with basically grabbing my basically two throwing knives that I split off into that was split off and make another one, in which killed two, which I basically even took my dagger. That's the reason why they basically are screaming. I basically concealed it, which Annabeth Blankson basically did not, and just realized I didn't even tell them about that. And basically I did throw my throwing knives basically in my jacket, which basically Percy gets off the bus. Me and Annabeth and Grover run out, as then basically starting to hear thunder, which I'm like, I basically put down my bandana as it, basically just normal now. As I'm like, guys, we gotta go. Which they're like, huh? I'm like, I just look up and basically they see it, and right when basically I just, was about to, I hear basically a snapshot in which, luckily, my face was not seen. Percy's face was side glance, and Annabeth's face is I'm covering with my body. So when she was looking up, even Grover was not being seen. They only take that snapshot of Percy, but only of us looking up. As then, all of a sudden, I'm just like, hear the thunder getting bigger, as I'm just saying, whisper, go. Well, loud whispering. As basically this, we start running. As then all of a sudden, everyone's reaction and shock is basically the bus blows up, and basically that's when the mist starts kicking it. Well, will start kicking in. In which everyone just looks at Zeus, and Zeus just sighs and be like, they saw weapons on the bus. No one basically saw him due to somehow he was able to make that split second reaction time. Athena, do you know how he was able to do it? In which she goes, the possibility is this. He must have calculated how much time he had due to basically the bus passing. Basically, from the tunnel, with basically because of the rain. It basically was non-existent, so that he couldn't use that to his advantage, but the tunnel and the noise in it was basically a good way to block out the basically daggers and the throwing knife. Well, yeah, the dagger and the two throwing knives that were thrown from basically being recognized or here hit in the ground. The only basically thing, though, he couldn't retrieve them because the light came back on. He might have accidentally used the shadows to increase the speed of his basically weapons, basically that he threw. To basically, in an unconscious way. Since he does not know how he's using his powers correctly, in which Poseidon basically would agree to that. He goes, in truth, he's just been using everything by reflexes, we can say, or in actuality, instincts. He needs to basically train in everything, basically to where it's not just instincts alone. In which basically this actually gets Zeus a little bit like, not shocked, but thinking, with basically him just have to think about it. And he says, are you saying this basically due to both of your thoughts on this? Or out to basically want to protect him? And he's not saying an accusing tone. Which basically, Athena says, this is the only way I can actually think. Because, in truth, he did look confused himself. In which Zeus would nod to that. And so, I did not know this, but the gods did. Give me a minute. Alright, I'm back. So, we go back to basically where me, Percy, Grover, Annabeth are basically running. We ran through the forest. As I'm just like, okay. We really have to basically work on our basically moving. Basically, when someone says go. Which Percy's like, huh? He goes, Percy, I did notice basically when I was walking to the bathroom, there was a missing poster on you, which Percy basically kind of flinches at that. In which Annabeth and Grover, well, Annabeth does not understand, but Grover does. And then basically it's like, Gabe, huh? Which Percy nods. And so I'm like, oh, who's Gabe? As basically Percy just says, the guy my mom married. He says basically a little bit of anger towards him, like, let me guess, jerk, abusive, threatening you, only care for money. But Percy nods, and I just sigh. And then basically in this rare moment, basically the anger shown. I'm like, I do not know why. No, I do know why actually. I want to punch him. Heck, I actually want to send him to the underworld so my dad can deal with him. Which Percy just blinking, I'm like, and I'm like, then this to him, like, so, after this quest is done, after we get basically your mom, Percy, which I have a feeling my dad is basically treating very nicely, by the way. Which she's like, huh? I'm like, remember I said my dad didn't take, Mr. Zappy Zaps, basically, Master Bolt. And we know it's not Poseidon. So, like I said, there's something else to this. I mean, because I already said it right away. It wasn't, my dad, Poseidon. Not Poseidon, my dad, Hades. Well, one of my dads. And which basically, because we're in the woods and walking and such, and the whole time argument was not happening, we were still walking while I'm saying this. Which, basically, Annabeth goes like, okay, so, then, again, who could it be that took the Master Bolt? I'm like, well, there are basically a few options that we have, but we need a lot more information before we can actually conclude anything. Honest and truth, the only thing I know is basically that it could be basically a demigod could have taken it. So, in actuality, it has to be a demigod, and that's what we need to think about. But we need more information. So we can't just blame basically the first person that comes into is basically being the god, the underworld, Hades. Has basically, well, be the first person you have to think of that will want this. To be honest though, from my knowledge is, the underworld is really crowded. Too much paperwork. Hopefully he's using something that would help him with all that paperwork. In which basically they're basically multiple different Hades working on paperwork. In which he's just smirking because he can watch this now with ease. Matu basically, not the underworld. So, I think basically Grover's like, so how do you know this? I'm like, well, that's classified actually. You guys don't need to know. Besides, where's the fun in basically trying to figure that one out? Which person's like, he told you, didn't you? I'm like, yeah, he did. And which Percy just sighs, and like, well, at least he told you that much. So we're going on this quest to try to find who took it and figure out who was the real one that basically did it. Huh? Which I like, yep. Which ain't gonna be easy. Trust me on that one, it's my gut feeling. Which Annabeth just sighs again. And you're like, great. So a wild goose chase, huh? Just great. I look at Annabeth like, it was always gonna be a wild goose chase, Annabeth. Come on. In which she just sighs, and like, I know. But still. Like, I just basically, would basically slow my pacing of my walk until I'm like right next to her, and I basically pat her on the shoulder. I'm like, there. Everything be okay, sis. Anyway, she just sighs again. Now, I would think after a while walking, we would come up to basically this greenhouse, it looks like, on the side of the road. As basically Percy and Ebb basically sniff the air and basically they smell hamburgers and basically other foods, which I'm like, guys, remember I got our stuff and basically my pocket dimension, my treasury, which basically Percy's like, I know, but come on, we can basically get food there, and I mean we can save everything then. I'm just sighing. I'm like, alright, fine, let's go. Which Percy's like, yes! Which Annabeth's like, food? And then Percy's like, food. I just walk across the street. Which I just look at Grover. Which Grover's looking a little bit fearful. Which I just sigh. I'm like, don't worry, we'll be fine. Trust me. Which he would nod slowly to that. So, what happens is this. When we basically get to the store's basically sign, it'll basically, Percy and Annabeth will try to read something, which Percy will say, what does it say? Annabeth goes like, I don't know. Basically, I would say, oh, it's Granny M's Emporium of Garden Gnomes. Which, basically, they just blink at me. Which I'm like, what? In which, basically, Annabeth and Percy are just looking at me, blinking. And I'm like, okay. You guys seem really shocked about something. Give me a minute. Okay, I wanted to make sure I said it right. Auntie M's, basically, Garden Gnome Emporium. Alright, so, yeah, I did. Anyways, which, Annabeth goes like, you read it. I'm like, oh, yeah. Yeah, you see, I was born with dyslexia already. I only have slight. Which, Percy's like, and you're still able to read? Yeah, one of the things about being a false demigod. One of the perks, I guess, now. With Percy and Annabeth just looking at me. And I can feel them being in disbelief. And just Percy's like, you are lucky. I'm like, may change over time. Who knows? Anyways, so let's see if anyone's here. We can get some food. Which Percy and Annabeth just nod in. So, knock on the door. And basically, someone will come over to answer it. It'll be Auntie M herself. I'm not going to say, basically, what she says. Besides, Percy does his usual thing. We basically get in, and basically, we're eating the food. In which, basically, so, everyone's basically enjoying it. Percy's basically, enjoying the food. Annabeth is kind of basically eating slowly. In which basically Auntie M is like, is everything alright, children? In which basically Grover is eating, also eating slowly. He goes like, yes, everything's alright. And basically, Percy would be like this, like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, basically, the food's really great. And it was like, I haven't had food like this in a while. Which Auntie M will be like, not be like, I need to stop saying that. Auntie M will say, that's good. There's so much here, but, here for you to eat. And what about you, child? As she looks over at me, I'm like, oh. I like the food. Really do. Haven't had it in a while, actually. So thanks. Fries, a burger. Wonder if you got any pizza. She goes, no, I did not have that, child. I'm sorry. I just wave it off. I'm like, it's fine. And I believe, basically, before any conversation go on, I'm like, hey, do you mind if I just call you Auntie M? Which, basically, she'll look at me and was like, yes, I do not mind. I'm like, yeah. So, basically will say this. Nice. Alright. I have a question then. She goes, go on. So I ask her, do you basically, how should I say, like stories? Including Greek mythology ones? Or any story in a sense? She basically would think about it, and I would think basically, even though I know who she is, I do think she, in her past, before who she became now, it would actually say, yes, I do like stories. My boyfriend used to tell me them, which I would nod. And I would just say, yeah, I like stories too. I come up with them sometimes. I actually want to write a story someday. But you never know. Probably won't sell that much or at all. But there are some stories I just think are just too tragic. especially in Greek mythology or any mythology ones. Basically, Annabeth goes like what? Which then I basically look at her, and then basically I look back, Auntie M, and I would say, it's just a tale of Medusa. That one I basically find really tragic. Because there's too many basically different stories I've read. And I don't know which one's real. They say basically she was basically forced to basically by Poseidon, or they were dating, and basically because of, well, Athena's temple and such. I just don't know which one's which. Well, they all end up the same though. In which basically, this kind of basically got some people, well, everyone's attention, which Auntie M would say, and what do you think of that? What do you think would happen to her, to the woman? I'm like, well, I think it was kind of unfair. I mean, in truth, what happened to her is unfair to me because of, one, if what happened in some of the stories was because Poseidon basically just doing what he basically did in one of them, I read a while back when I was younger. It's true, then she didn't. She basically was. Well, how should I say? She basically was with him unwillingly. Another one, she was with him willingly, and they were dating, and then after what happened, he left her. I don't think basically the goddess of wisdom should have basically took her anger out on basically Medusa. I think that was just basically wrong. But because of that, she became a monster and such, and I think maybe also her sisters basically joined her. If so, then at least she had family. But it kind of sucks. Turned into a monster for all of eternity, and, well, you basically want revenge on the one that did it, and you can't do it. Basically, it's just annoying. Like, a goddess basically created their own monster for, well, if she basically ever had any children that met her, she would basically just instantly kill. Which basically, Auntie M would basically nod. Because, yes, it is a tragedy, and he seemed to sympathize with her. I'm like, yeah, but she basically started killing innocent people. It's unfortunate, but, she became what basically the goddess of wisdom and war made her. What do you guys think? As Percy says, that does sound a little bit tragic, and Grover's like, yeah, but basically, I think Annabeth would just look at me in shock and kind of be a little bit glaring at me, which I just won't give a non-caring look. Some of the gods are just looking at Athena as she's basically just sighs. Because she would know who it is I'm saying that to. And she'd be thinking, of course he'll say that in front of her. And basically Poseidon will say, we were dating actually. And some stories get made because of rumors or such, or mistranslations. Gotta love basically old text, huh? In which then we would get to talk about the statues and such, and they say how she basically wants to basically take a picture. As Percy's agreeing to this, says, I'm basically like sighing, because I know what's going to happen. So, what happens is very simple. Everything would go the same. When basically Annabeth says move, basically, I basically grab Percy, and because I would be the one next to him, while Grover's also next to him, and Annabeth would be next to Grover. So I would have grabbed him, and then basically me and him would go over to the side, as Auntie M, aka Medusa, which is revealed, would have basically, just start snarling at this and saying, "Children, do not run." Basically, we hear then Grover says Maya as he basically gets the sneakers flying as Annabeth puts on the cap as Percy goes like, "Huh? What happened? What's going on?" And I say, just basically Medusa. Auntie M's is Medusa. Which basically he's like, "What? What? Like, come on, Percy. Auntie M? Kind of a no-brainer, don't you think?" Which he's just blinking. He's like, "Oh, did I?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it. Just don't look at her and keep moving." Which basically, all of a sudden, I would take out basically. I would say, I'll take out a pour that'll appear right next to me as as Percy sees me take. No, actually, no. Okay, scratch that. As basically what happens next is he sees me grabbing onto the chain, as he sees me now grabbing onto basically I would say, he realizes what was that? Charm? Yeah, charm basically of a katana. As in all of a sudden it glowed and basically now I have a sheath with basically a katana. As basically Percy's like, you have a sword? A katana? I'm like, yeah. So? He's like, that's just, I'm like, enough talking, more moving. As basically, I would unsheath basically my katana and just start running. Basically, in a different, in a path of going forward as basically I would kind of basically keep my head a little bit down while looking. Well, a little bit. My head's down as basically my eyes are a little bit looking up. As, for some reason, while basically I'm running, I start feeling something like, I do not know why, as I, start to get this a little bit of a danger sense as I, jump out of the way as I hear basically the hissing sound as I hear Auntie Anne goes like, "I've been wondering, why do you have the eyes of both of them?" Which, basically, I'm not even looking at her, I'm like, one eye basically the same one as Annabeth and the other one's at Percy? Did they even have a child together? I'm like, no. I can change my look into any one thing I want. So I just chose this. Just, you are abomination. I cannot wait till I turn you into a statue and destroy you. As I just, not even looking at her, I just sigh in my head. I'm like, yeah, figure as much. And so, basically, I hear something being lifted up, as then I dodge roll out of the way. As I'm just basically thinking, note to self, keep moving. As I start moving again, as this weird feeling is now coming on, because I basically can hear her running after me, which I'm like, oh, come on, why me? Why not Percy? As I'm thinking, okay, that was really, really harsh on my part. Never think of that again. As what I'm seeing when I basically, now since I know she's right behind me, and basically I look forward, I start basically seeing basically weird, basically electric marks coming on me. And I'm like, huh? What the? As while I'm running, because of this electric marks, I'm starting moving faster and faster and faster. And basically to the point, I've already basically gone around the whole, basically the whole entire area multiple times. And now it's just like, I'm looking like I'm not even there no more. As Auntie M's saying, where are you? I'm like, I don't know what's going on. But here's the thing. You need to stop this already. Look, I know you want to try to kill me because I basically have both of their eyes and such, but come on. I'm basically just someone that's just with them and such, and you're trying to kill me? Basically trying to end me because of basically my eye colors are basically one eye color that you like, the other eye color you hate. And basically she would say because you basically are their child. I can basically already tell it. I can basically, smell it coming off of you. Along with the other two. As then basically Grover would come out of nowhere and basically hit Medusa. And basically says, take that, that's for Uncle Ferdinand. And basically, And she basically screams out. I say, "Go, Grover!" And then basically she gets hit, with basically a slash, as you can basically feel blood coming down. She screams out in pain. And while I'm running, though, I'm getting this weird, let's say, voice in my head, as says, as basically this voice will say this: you can only use the speed when you are in danger. Only basically when know you are truly in danger will this ever come to you. For you know what this is. You know which power this comes from. This is only granted to you in absolute danger. So you can never use it basically on your own. Only when you basically get a certain blessing of someone. As that's when I basically stop hearing it, I'm like, oh, come on, I have the Speed Force. Well, Tyler, one of my friends, Tyler, said the Speed Force is like a void, and because it's endless and such, so... Maybe what any power that have to do with the void also goes into basically the Speed Force. Or one of my existences is in the DC universe. And you kind of already met basically the Flash. So I kind of, do a few quick attacks as basically Percy would, do his thing and cut off Medusa's head. The fact is, basically after that happens, I basically stop. I'm basically starting to slow down, as basically after that, basically full on stuff. I'm like, okay, that was, everything hurts a bit. Which Annabeth says, don't look, which basically she would get the bag and such. And when I asked, is it safe? She goes, yeah, it's safe. So, they would see me, I basically would look at my sword, I would see the blood on it as I flick basically the blood off and then sheath the sword. And then basically it would just, turn back into basically a trinket. A charm, basically. As Annabeth goes like, so, wait, I'm like, yeah, I have daggers, throwing knives, two daggers, throwing knife, spear, and a sword, and bow and arrows. I get it. Kind of basically well prepared for something, huh? She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter at this point. Now, what do we do with the head? As Percy basically, has an idea. Because he did not hear basically about the gods would basically use him, betray him, and such, and all that. He only has this idea because he just wants to basically basically send a message or something, be disrespectful to Zeus because of this quest. And they had to deal with a monster. So Percy basically killed Medusa. Yeah. And he does basically look towards her office, and he would find the address for the gods, and basically some drachmeal, and basically even the area for Hades' address, and a box in which what happens is very simple. He sends the box to the gods. In which basically Annabeth just says, you have an act of making them angry with us, huh? And basically Percy goes like, yeah? Basically, I'm okay with it. Which I'm just saying, it's probably in our gene or something. In which Percy just nods. He goes, if I didn't do it, would you? I just look at him, basically smirk, and I'm like, yes. And they just, which Annabeth and Grover just sigh at both of us. So, everything will happen when they get the head of Medusa. Even though they knew this was going to happen, it's still, Zeus is a little angry at this. So, I would basically say, well, let's try to basically see what else we can find here, and well, move on. Alright? Which they all would nod. So we look around. Meanwhile, in the underworld, as, well, Hades is talking to somebody. He goes, now then, Miss Jackson, you don't have to worry basically about being here. You're perfectly safe. In which basically Hades actually being kind to her and not basically being his, well, as everyone think he'll be like. Which she's, basically Miss Jackson, basically aka Percy's mom, is saying, thank you, Lord Hades. He goes, it's not a problem. Look, I basically know what's going on, and along with my brother, which is, well, your husband, well, basically Percy's father, also knows this. Along with Hera. Hold up. Okay, sorry about that. So as I was saying, basically he says, my brother, aka your, well, husband, man you love, basically Percy's father, knows, I know, and basically Athena, Hera, basically knows. The only ones who know, basically, who are the ones that are, basically, the parents of, basically, Jack Van Helsing. As you can see. As, basically, Sally Jackson has seen me and Percy Grover and Annabeth are searching, basically, Medusa's, well, area. Home. Basically, for anything useful. And she would nod. She goes, so, why was I taken then? In which he would say, simple put, I did not know of this until, well, the day after. So I apologize. And, she can see him being sincere, and she'll just nod and drink, basically, well, the drink, and then she goes, tea? Which he would nod to us, yes. Now then, I wanted to let you know, and watch, that obviously I'm not going to basically interfere with your son, basically his quest, or his companions, due to basically, well, my own son's on it, well, adopted by the way, which she just blinking, she goes, huh? You were probably wondering how can multiple gods plus a primordial be, basically, have one child, adoption. We did not know this could even be possible, but it is. Well, with the right circumstances. So, moving on from that, I just basically want to know that, well, I wanted to let you know of this, though. I am sending a protector of sorts of the group. Its main basic priority is protect the group, or, well, my son, from any danger, since I feel there are some things that may be going on behind the scenes for him. A group of people will be hunting him. Which Sally at Jackson's about to ask who, but then he just says, Artemis's hunters. In which her eyes widen and she just nods. So, basically, he says, it's a creature that has been, well, known in many different pantheons. Yes, there are multiple, because of your history. In which she will nod slowly to that. He goes, you do not need to know what, but it has strict orders not to harm, basically, them, only protect them. In which Sally's like, thank you. But, why did you call in your furies beforehand? It was, just so basically they can watch what's gonna happen. I want to basically see the reaction when they find out who basically that child is. That ended them. Which Sally can't help but, well, look at him makes it curious. So, unknown to me, Percy, Annabeth, and Grover, something that's outside of basically Auntie's M's Gnome's Emporium is the ground's cracking, as basically looks like it basically opened up as something slithers out of a hole. And then it looks basically in the direction of where we are, but then decides to slither into the forest without us ever knowing. So, we basically found what we can use. I would find some more drachmeal, as basically I was asked who had the drachmeal bag, which Percy says it was actually, I would say, and basically Annabeth's, well, and Percy's, as I grab Percy's bag, see basically the bag where I put the drachmeal into it, and put Percy's bag back in, put the bag of drachmeal back into Percy's bag, then put Percy's bag back into basically my treasury. And so I'm like, okay, so we got everything that we can need, right? Which Annabeth says there wasn't really much money here. Rover says, got some food and a bag in it. I'm like, good. Alright. Nothing else? Which they nod no. I'm like, well then let's get going. So we would just go the canon route and basically make a campfire, as I'll tell them all I'll be up. I'm not going to be sleeping tonight. Which I think Grover's like, I can take the first watch, man. It's okay. I'm like, nah, Grover, just sleep. Trust me. I don't think I can. I have too much on my mind. I can't sleep at all. So, go ahead. And Beth would, you know, already basically, be sleeping. Well, about to go to sleep, but she will basically ask for her bag and such, and I would grab it, give it to her. She will grab basically a sleeping bag and such, which she forgot to even had her stuff. She says thank you though, and I could basically throw it back in basically her portal. Well, into my portal, my treasury basically. So I would just nod and do so. So, in a sense, Percy, me and Grover talk for a little bit, but then Grover and Percy will then fall asleep. As then I just basically make the child clone jutsu, and I make about 8 clones, and I basically say, find certain points basically in the trees, basically to, well, look in different directions. If anything, basically you see that it's dangerous, one of you pop in, alert the rest of us. Which, basically, they all nod and such and take certain points in the trees. As I started thinking of, basically, how can I basically get all this, just pure muscle instincts or just instincts in general take over when I'm in mid-fight and everything. In a sense, even trying to figure out how do I even get any of this. The entire, basically, theory had it. Hold up. Okay, sorry. It's just my dad was walking past my room, so he's just downstairs. Anyways, so the entire theory I had about my emotions, in different dimensions, is real. And it's just, I'm just trying to figure out and need to basically go over anything I know. And basically try to make it where it's not just instinct, it's actual, basically, skill. As then I hear, basically, a rustle. As I know, basically, my shadow clones that are basically nearby seeing it, as we all see just glowing, basically eyes looking. Hold up. Oh, sorry, I thought my dog came upstairs and my dad needed to take her outside. So, yeah. Anyways, so yeah, we see basically glowing eyes, and basically I'm not basically I feel basically a sense of dread. I'm like, okay, this is a new feeling I ever had. And basically, I don't know not why, but I do take out basically my daggers out. That I would actually have had them in my jacket the whole entire time. I never really basically understood, but there are certain things that I know I basically did not basically put something somewhere and they actually are there, and I basically did not know, and it's just like I said, all instinct is happening, which I'm just like, okay, I really hate that basically some stuff has happened without me knowing, and now this, as all of a sudden that basically the eyes are looking away, and they see that basically, well, wrestling's going away from us. I'm like, basically I'm breathing in and out rapidly, and I'm thinking, yeah, gotta train. So, that's what I will do all night. But this is where I'm going to leave it off, everyone. Hope you guys like this. I'm technically starting to get tired. And I was getting tired a little bit earlier. and the day. So yeah, hope you guys have a nice night wherever you are or day, and enjoy whatever day you're watching this weekend, Monday or something. All right, bye.